Famously, brown men receive one of the worst reputations in the Looksmaxxing community, responsible for countless Looksmaxxing-related memes. But why is this? Also, then, why is it possible that both the individuals featured on the screen can be considered highly attractive while possessing wildly different karyotypes? I made a previous video on this topic looking at East Asian faces, but today we will compare attractive South Asian faces to other races. It should be first noted that South Asian faces heavily resemble Caucasian faces in terms of bone structure. Yet differences obviously exist beyond the extent of pure skin color. A study done comparing South Asian faces to ideal Caucasian faces finds that when golden facial ratios derived from ideal Caucasians' faces are applied to South Asians, differences between that and actually ideal South Asian faces become obvious. In layman's terms, South Asian faces that were rated the most attractive actually differ from Caucasian faces, rated most attractive in bone structure. This rivals the idea given from the mainstream looks community that Eurocentric features are ideal in all cases. Studies done comparing South Asian bone structure to Caucasians finds that South Asians have a more aggressive facial width to height ratio on average. Interesting, considering that in fact other studies corroborate that a more aggressive facial width to height ratio is considered more attractive. But this is a concept for later. From my own compiling of South Asian faces, I find that on average, South Asian males of above median facial attractiveness tend to have a less aggressive facial width to height ratio, with the average varying from sources to source. But the most common I have found is 1.99, which is very compact. Here we have a photo of Hamza Ahmed, widely agreed 6 out of 10, or a highly attractive face, and we can see his facial width to height ratio is quite low considering his ethnicity. Inversely, for Caucasians, faces that tend to have a lower facial width to height on average of 1.89. The most attractive facial width to height ratios for Caucasians are more aggressive. Here is Jordan Barrett, who sits between a 7.75 out of 10 to 8 out of 10, with an aggressive facial width to height of almost 2.2. Attractive African American faces tended to exist in the same average of their race, roughly 1.93, with the average trace facial width to height ratio of attractive African American faces being 1.95. It can be inferred then that South Asian faces with a lower facial width to height ratio are more attractive than faces with a more aggressive ratio. South Asian faces tend to exhibit more full bottom and top lips than that of Caucasians by average, although an exact number value for this is hard to find. Incidental evidence I've seen in my life supports this. Unsurprisingly, faces with fuller lips tended to be more attractive regardless of race, but it should be noted, Caucasian faces received a far higher boost from full lips. Then, most other races most likely due to their naturally smaller lips. East Asian, then South Asian, with African American faces receiving the least benefit from fuller lips. South Asians, unlike Caucasians, South Asians tend to have a positive canthal tilt of between 2 to 5 degrees. Attractive South Asian faces also tend to have the about same amount of canthal tilt, while attractive European faces tend to have a high canthal tilt compared to the average of their race by up to 7 degrees. African American faces were similar to East Asian faces, with ratios similar to their average Sana. Note that African American faces on average had higher canthal tilt than European faces. Looksmaxxing as in South Asian male is fairly straightforward. Most of the basic advice will bring up your looks by 0.75% of a point. This includes things like fixing your hygiene, correctly styling your hair, getting in shape, etc. I am working on a Looksmaxxing program dedicated to South Asians given their more dire situation. Stay updated for its release. Looksmaxxing a full point with the right direction is possible, which given the looks scale is exponential, could mean a 10 times increase in your available dating options. Most of you watching this will improve from a 4 to a 5 or from a 5 to 6. But as you go higher on the looks scale, it becomes more difficult to improve. Looksmaxxing above a 6 may almost be vital for South Asians, as women's race preferences tend to exclude them by default. As always, if you are in need of a high-accuracy face rating or Looksmaxxing advice, please check out the link in my bio.